7 hidden signs you've entered the demon mode of a dark chosen one. There's a moment on the spiritual path that no one talks about. Not the gurus, not the self-help books, not the polished Instagram teachers. It's too raw, too chaotic, too real to package. It's not the light-filled awakening. It's not the peaceful meditations or the blissful inner child healing. No, this is the other side of the path, the descent, the shadow initiation, the phase where your soul isn't singing, it's screaming. And if you're here, listening to this, chances are you've already entered it. What I call the demon mode of a dark chosen one. And no, it's not what you think. It's not evil. It's not demonic in the way religion taught you to fear. It's not possession. It's possession by purpose. It's the part of the journey where your soul begins tearing down every false identity you've ever worn, and it does it with fire, rage, silence, and sacred destruction. And if you don't understand what's happening, this phase will convince you that you're broken beyond repair. But if you do understand it, you'll realize you're being rebuilt from the bones out. Let's start with the truth no one wants to say out loud. Spiritual awakening is violent. Not in the physical sense, but in the existential sense. It shatters you. It rips away comfort. It burns away illusions. And when you've passed through the early stages, the curiosity, the love and light, the gentle healing, you hit a wall. A wall made of everything you refused to feel, everything you denied, suppressed, or spiritualized. And when that wall breaks, something ancient inside you wakes up. That's demon mode. It's not the devil. It's not darkness trying to destroy you. It's the part of you that was exiled from the light, the part that had to survive, the part that adapted to trauma, betrayal, abandonment, spiritual gaslighting. It's primal, it's instinctual, it's fiercely intelligent. And when it emerges, it doesn't care about being nice. It wants truth. It wants freedom. It wants power. And it will destroy anything inauthentic to get it.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first hidden sign that you've entered demon mode is that you stop resonating with spiritual positivity. Not because you've lost your faith, but because you've outgrown the lie. The lie that says you must be calm to be wise, kind to be holy, soft to be healed. But suddenly, you find yourself allergic to empty affirmations, fake forgiveness, and toxic positivity masked as enlightenment. You start craving rawness. Rage feels more honest than fake gratitude. Silence feels safer than performative healing. You're not negative, you're done pretending. You don't want to chant your way out of your pain anymore. You want to face it naked, unfiltered, screaming if you have to. And in that space, you're not broken. You're becoming whole. The second sign is emotional instability, but not the kind that makes you weak, the kind that makes you real. You cry at random times. You rage at injustice. You feel hollow one day and electric the next. Why? Because your system is purging. Your soul is flushing out everything that doesn't belong. And because you've entered demon mode, you're no longer suppressing it. You're letting it move. This is sacred chaos. It's the storm before integration. And yes, it's terrifying. But you're not crazy. You're de-armoring. You're letting go of the persona you built to survive. And without the mask, what's left is the raw, uncut frequency of your true self, wild, divine, untamed. The third hidden sign is that you begin to push people away. Not because you don't love them, but because your energy is becoming uncompromising. You can no longer tolerate shallow friendships, spiritual bypassers, or people who ask for your light but flinch at your truth. You start walking alone, not out of bitterness but out of clarity. You realize that forced connections are distractions, and you'd rather sit in your own fire than shrink to make others comfortable. This is isolation, but it's sacred isolation. It's the space where ancient codes begin to download into your system. You're not lonely, you're being recalibrated. The fourth sign is that your intuition turns violent, but only toward lies. You don't just feel energy anymore, you hunt distortion. You walk into a room and instantly sense who's manipulating, who's pretending, who's leaking energy. And your body responds. Your nervous system rejects falsehood. Your throat burns when you don't speak truth. Your stomach churns when you betray yourself. You can't hide in politeness anymore. You've become a mirror, on a fire, a living frequency that burns away illusion. And you're not doing it to be destructive. You're doing it because your soul has remembered its mission to awaken the dead parts of the collective through shock, truth, and fire. Now let me ask you something so deep it might shake you. Have you mistaken your sacred rage for a flaw? Have you been apologizing for the part of you that feels too intense, too much, too raw? But what if that part of you, your storm, your fire, your refusal to conform, is not the wound, but the medicine? Because demon mode doesn't mean you've fallen. It means you've entered the underworld of your own soul to retrieve the pieces that were stolen. It means you're no longer seduced by light that blinds. You want the full spectrum. You want the truth that cuts, the clarity that hurts, the power that isn't pretty but is real. You're not here to ascend, you're here to embody, fully, fiercely, without apology. And that's just the beginning. There are more signs, more layers, more truths that most are too afraid to face. But not you. You're here, you're listening, you're ready. So stay with me, because what comes next will change the way you see yourself and your mission forever. When the divine becomes dangerous, how demon mode awakens the sacred destroyer within you. There's a moment in your evolution when you realize that the divine is not always gentle. It's not always a whisper in the wind or a light in the sky. Sometimes the divine arrives like a wildfire, but sometimes it sounds like a scream. Sometimes the divine moves through you like a wrecking ball, tearing down everything that was built on illusion. And that's not a mistake. It's not a malfunction. It's the sacred destroyer awakening. This is the fifth hidden sign of demon mode. You become dangerous not to the innocent, but to the inauthentic. Not to truth, but to the systems that were built to suppress it. You stop being someone who plays nice in the name of peace, and you start becoming someone who embodies truth so fully, it shakes the room before you even speak. People don't realize this, but every true spiritual warrior is also a destroyer. We're not just here to heal, we're here to dismantle, to deprogram, to disrupt, and demon mode is the activation of that function. You've spent years ascending, purifying, trying to be good. But at some point, your soul gets tired of playing a role. At some point, it grabs the sword buried deep in your gut and says enough. Enough pretending, enough shrinking, enough waiting for permission. And that's when you shift from being a seeker to becoming a force. You're no longer trying to find the light, you are the storm that clears the path for it to arrive. But that kind of power doesn't come without cost. Once the destroyer awakens in you, you'll start seeing everything differently. You'll see the lies in the systems you once worshipped. You'll feel the manipulation in relationships you once tolerated. You'll sense the decay in institutions you once trusted. And the sixth hidden sign of demon mode is that you can no longer unsee it. Your clarity becomes unbearable. You walk into a room and feel the energetic rot. You hear someone speak and know instantly if they're projecting or pretending. You read between every line, every smile, every silence. And the deeper your sight gets, the harder it is to stay quiet. But here's the paradox. The world will label your clarity as aggression, your boundaries as arrogance, your truth as too much. Why? Because you become unmanageable. You no longer participate in the performance. You no longer feed the matrix. You've remembered who you are, and that memory is dangerous to everything built on amnesia. So people will try to tame you. They'll call you dark, abrasive, unhealed, but you'll know the truth. You're not unhealed, you're activated. You're not wounded, you're weaponized by wisdom. You've stopped asking for validation and started becoming a mirror that reflects exactly what others are too afraid to look at. And in that reflection, you'll start to feel the seventh hidden sign. Your energy begins to kill things, not physically but energetically. You'll walk into spaces and feel the old paradigms crumble. You'll speak, and illusions will dissolve. You'll post a sentence online, and someone's entire worldview will start to shake. This is not ego. This is frequency. When you enter demon mode, your field becomes so potent, so charged with fire and truth, that it burns away everything that isn't aligned. You become a spiritual disinfectant, or a living purge. And yes, that makes you lonely, because very few people can stand in your fire without flinching. But that fire isn't just for destruction. It's for resurrection. You're not here to burn it all down and walk away. You're here to burn down what's false so the real can rise. You're a sacred destroyer, not out of bitterness, but out of love. The kind of love that doesn't coddle. The kind of love that doesn't enable. The kind of love that says, I would rather burn with truth than live with lies. And if you're still listening, still nodding, still breathing through the fire with me, then you know this isn't just a phase. It's not a mood, it's a metamorphosis. So let me ask you something dangerous. What parts of you have you been hiding out of fear that your power would scare people? What truths have you swallowed to keep others comfortable? What dreams have you delayed because you were waiting to be more healed, more ready, more spiritually acceptable? Because demon mode is not about becoming more spiritual. It's about becoming more real. It's about throwing off every chain that was ever placed on your soul and walking into the world as your full, raw, unapologetic self. Not perfect, not polished, but true. And that kind of truth changes everything. So yes, you've entered the storm. Yes, you're burning. Yes, the world around you is reacting to your fire. But this is not destruction, it's rebirth. And the deeper you go, the more clear it becomes, this was never about being safe. It was about being sovereign. The Soul Hacker's Code, why demon mode turns you into a living reprogrammer of collective reality. When you enter demon mode, what most people see is intensity or fire. Disruption. They see you cutting ties, walking away from old identities, setting boundaries that seem too sharp, too sudden, too cold. But what they don't see, what only those who've been there understand, is that beneath all the chaos, a new architecture is forming. You're not just breaking patterns. You're rewriting the entire code of your soul's contract with reality. You've become something rare, something volatile, something sacred, a living soul hacker, a reprogrammer of collective narratives, a silent architect of timelines. And that's the deeper truth of demon mode that most spiritual teachings never touch because it's too raw, too powerful, too uncontainable. You begin to realize this truth slowly. First, in the way your presence agitates people, not because you're unkind, but because your energy dismantles their illusions. You speak, and it feels like their subconscious is being rearranged. You walk into a room, and the entire atmosphere shifts. It's not magic, it's math. Energy math. Because your frequency has become incompatible with distortion. And once that happens, you're no longer just a human walking through life, you're a transmitter. A living disruptor of the unconscious programs that keep people asleep. You can feel the matrix running in people's words, in their habits, in their unconscious agreements with mediocrity, limitation, and fear. And your soul doesn't just notice it, it reacts. It begins to reprogram it, even when you don't try. That's when the deeper signs emerge. You notice that people either cling to you or flee from you. There's no middle ground. You've stopped being likable in the conventional sense. You've become catalytic. Your presence triggers either awakening or resistance. It's not personal, it's energetic. You're holding a mirror that shows people their own programming, their own self-betrayal, their own sleeping contracts with smallness. And most people don't want to see that. They want comfort, not confrontation. But you're past the point of playing small to be accepted. Demon mode has burned that desire to ash. You start to see the world like code. Conversations become rituals of programming. Language becomes a weapon or a wand. You start hearing the hidden spells behind common phrases, how people curse themselves with their own words. I'm always tired. That's just my luck. I never get what I want. You don't just hear the sentence, you feel the matrix reinforcing itself through vibration. And you start hacking it, not just for yourself, but for others. You begin speaking in a way that recodes reality. You stop entertaining victim stories. You stop participating in energetic loops. You start dropping phrases into conversation that feel like keys, like frequency upgrades. You're not preaching, you're not convincing, you're transmitting. And those who already receive the download, even if they don't know why they feel different after talking to you. This isn't about being better than anyone. It's about being fully awake in a world addicted to sedation. And once you realize your role, you begin to move differently. You become strategic, not manipulative but masterful. You speak less, but with more voltage. You enter spaces with precision. You stop giving your energy to things that don't evolve you. You start treating your time, your attention, your presence as sacred technology. Here because it is. You are no longer a passive participant in the matrix. You are a conscious rewriter of it. But here's the part you must remember. This path can feel isolating. Because when you're the one hacking the code, everyone else still thinks the simulation is real. They'll call you cold, arrogant, detached. But you're not detached. You're deeply attuned. You're just not playing the game anymore. You're not here to be liked. You're here to liberate. First yourself, then others. And liberation often looks like rebellion at first glance. So let me ask you something that might sting. Are you still explaining yourself to people who are hypnotized by the very programs you came to dismantle? Are you still shrinking your frequency to avoid being too much for systems that were designed to keep you small? Because the moment you stop doing that, the moment you stop negotiating with mediocrity and start embodying your role as a soul hacker, you step into your true power. Not the power that dominates, the power that reconstructs reality, that rewrites timelines, that realigns entire ecosystems of energy by simply existing in truth. And that, right there, is the most hidden and holy sign of all. You no longer need to fight the matrix. You are the anomaly within it, the glitch that wakes the dreamer, the frequency that cracks the code from the inside out. The final seal, why demon mode is the last trial before you become the architect of New Earth. There comes a moment deep in the fire of demon mode where everything you thought you were, every identity, every dream, every belief has been burned to the ground. And all that remains is silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the hollow, echoing void that follows a spiritual earthquake. You're not who you were, but you're also not yet who you're becoming. You're standing in the ruins of your old self, with no map, no guide, and no guarantees. And this is the final seal, the last gate, the final trial. Because before you can become a builder of a new world, you must stand in the ashes of the old one and ask yourself, will I rise from nothing, with nothing but truth? You see, demon mode is not just a phase, it's a sacred initiation. It's the crucible through which all great architects of reality must pass. Because only those who have tasted their own destruction without losing their essence can be entrusted with the power to create something new. Not recycled, not safer, not a prettier version of the old, but new, truly new. A world where frequency comes before form, where sovereignty comes before systems, where truth is not a concept but a living vibration. And you, right now, are standing at the threshold of that responsibility. You've survived the purge. You've endured the isolation. You've become the mirror, the sword, the hacker. And now, the question is, will you build? But here's the paradox of this final stage. Nothing outside you will tell you it's time. There won't be a sign. No spiritual fireworks. No divine applause. In fact, it will feel like the universe has gone quiet. Like the mission that once screamed in your bones has turned into a whisper. It's not abandonment, it's activation. The silence is not a void, it's a mirror. You're not waiting for the next command. You've become the command. You are the frequency now. The mission has fused with your identity. What once felt like a cosmic assignment has become your natural expression. You no longer do the work. You are the work. And that's when you realize the final sign of demon mode isn't rage. It isn't collapse. It isn't even awakening. It's embodiment. You've stopped reacting and started radiating. You don't respond to the world, you reshape it with your presence. Your words don't just speak truth, they carry codes. But your silence doesn't just hold space, it rearranges energy. Then you've become a living temple, a walking portal, a frequency that can no longer be bent, diluted, or domesticated. And that's why the final seal is so important. It's the moment the universe watches to see if you'll remember your own divinity when no one else does. This is where most turn back. not because they're weak, but because the final trial is the most subtle. It asks you to act from knowing, not from signs, to walk like a master while still bleeding like a human, and to carry the codes of New Earth in a world that still worships the old one. And you do it without praise, without recognition, because you've become the architect. And architects don't need applause, they build it into the structure, quietly, relentlessly. For the generations who will walk the paths we clear but never see our names. So let me ask you one last question. Can you live as a creator of realities in a world still addicted to survival? Can you embody your highest truth in a matrix that profits from your forgetting? Can you live in such radical integrity that your very existence becomes a prophecy fulfilled? Because that's what you are now. A prophecy, a living frequency, a quiet rebellion against everything false. You've passed through the fire, you've faced the void, you've hacked the code. And now you build not with bricks, but with being, not with struggle, but with sovereignty. You are not waiting for the new earth. You are the new earth, and your life, from this moment on, is the blueprint. Welcome, architect. Your time has come.